Sana for those kind words. Habari Gani, brothers and sisters, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It was a great deal of feeling that I'd be here tonight in Seattle. In spite of all the jokes I make about it, I have a long history with some of the people here in Seattle. For a long time, Zakia here, I remember Zakia had a very young person, a very young student, who came into our independent school in the 1960s. And out of that school, we lost 17 students who were her classmates, 17 young black brothers who were students of mine, Fred Hampton probably being the most famous one. So I stand in blood before you, and I take that very seriously. I'm a very feeling person. I have a very great deal of love for black people because unlike most blacks who you read about and hear about, I've never experienced all those negative things from black people. I've been extremely well loved throughout my life. I've never had all the things that happened to me that have happened to, that I read about happening to other black people. And so I've dedicated my life to just one objective, and that is to assist in the liberation of the minds of black people and therefore the liberation then of their bodies. That is my sole reason for being. And it is the only reason, of course, that I would appear before you tonight. And I would hope that we would have a chance to really understand one another. Most certainly I would say things that will alienate some of you because of your personal lifestyle. That is not my intent. I have no fight with black people. I never in my life have used words like Tom. I never in my life have used words like nigger. I'm not that type of person. I have one enemy, and that enemy is the white race. No other enemies do I have. And therefore I'm at total war with that enemy, the enemy who has for 362 years waged unrelenting war against my people. And I have no time to have internal conflicts. I do take issue with brothers because of their political position, but it's not personal. It's a political position. And so with that being a background, I'd like to say to you that the most important thing that has happened to me was left out of the introduction, inadvertently. And that was the fact that I grew up. I was born and raised in an all-black town in Alabama. For the first 17 years of my life, I had all-black teachers, all-black role models, black people who loved me, who protected me, who raised me, who fed me, who nurtured me, and also who educated me. And I would like to say, as I say all the time, that there's a difference between education and training, and therefore the difference between education and training, I'm fortunate because I was educated by black people, and I was trained at the University of Chicago. Unfortunately, black people, and that's part of the Mentacide process, black people are more impressed with the fact that I was trained at the University of Chicago than the fact that I was educated by black people in Alabama. And with that, I'm going to take a sort of different tag with Mentacide tonight because, and I'm going to lay it in some ways that all of us can sort of understand, and although we may like, this will be published in about 3 weeks. In about 3 weeks, Third World Press will publish what I'm going to talk to you about tonight, and I'm just going to introduce it, and you'll have to get the publication from Third World Press, and it will be out here. I would also like to say to Karumo and all the other brothers and sisters who I worked with over the years that I really appreciate being here and being loved so by them. I mean, there have been many times I've been places which my weapon was not as good as it was tonight. And in fact, there was a time when I had to almost run out of the place. They were always stood tall and stood behind me. Tonight I'm going to talk about Mentacide. And I'll start by telling you one of the problems in talking about a theory. One of the most difficult tasks of a black scholar, one of the most difficult tasks of a black person who thinks, is to be able to analyze the influence of racism or racist on black behavior and attitudes, be able to do that analyzation, and at the same time escape the almost irresistible Western scholarship protected barrier. Western scholarship in the Western world, that is their protection. They have a barrier, and they call it scholarship. And it protects them so well that even when you begin to study racism, you end back up studying the victim, doing an analysis of their victims. That's what is happening. So there's no question that this analysis of the victim methodology has been a major scientific development of white scientists because it effectively leads away from the cause of our condition, which is white pathology. It leads you away from that once you get into it because the way the scholarship is set up. One of the results is that the position is usually taken that one should not even imply to the black masses our truly weak position for fear of immobilizing them. In other words, you shouldn't talk about all the conditions of blacks because you immobilize them, which are a condition which already exists. while others take the position that whites have power over blacks all. Now this is due to the all-powerful but non-existent white concept of free will. Free will, which has us in all sort of trouble. All sort of trouble, this idea that you got free will. Namely that people always have choices, and you have choices since you have free will. Therefore, you can be held responsible for your behavior. And that free will, of course, as I spoke to last night, that free will, what it leads to then, it leads to a great deal of negative behavior, and it leads to rugged individualism. Therefore, to give you the type of analogy, and I'm not trying to be humorous. I know many things I say are humorous, but I like to use analogies, as African people have done throughout history. Is that the analogy I have is that whites have us fighting over deck chairs on the Titanic. Got us fighting over deck chairs on the Titanic, while they have taken the lifeboats and gone. And some brothers and sisters want to argue on what class we're in. What class we're in. So we had a brother like Brother Wilson back at the University of Chicago, who was the head of the sociology department that I said last night, who wrote this book, The Decline and Significance of Race. Race is declining in significance, now it's class and economics. And of course, the mere fact that the brother is married to a white girl means that race declines every night in significance, especially when they go to bed. Now, I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm very aware of what happens when you expose the human personality to dangerous stimuli. I'm a very serious behavior scientist. I'm very aware of that. However, there comes a time when the risk of exposure is insignificant when compared to the alternative. And to paraphrase a type of mental health truth, which is a mental health truth, the greatest pathology in the world, the greatest sickness in the world, is for people to believe in something just because they wish it to be so. That's the greatest pathology you can have. For you to believe in something just because you wish it to be so. And that's what most of us are. For example, if you take suicide. Let's deal with that for a minute, because that's what the publication will be about. And I want to use that just to deliver this. In the not too distant past, suicide in the black community was virtually non-existent. In fact, when our comedians were really comedians, they used to joke about it. How can a black commit suicide jumping out of a basement window? Things like that, you know. And so, you know, the fact that the black committed suicide by attacking the policeman's club with his head. Things like that, you know. Somebody in my town where I grew up, if somebody come up talk about somebody kill himself, everybody be looking for who killed him. But there's a further understanding if you begin to do this analysis. One of the things I have to say right away, and then maybe this will give you some understanding of where I'm coming from. The most serious mistake you can make, along with that greatest pathology, the most serious mistake you can make is to try to use white definitions to try to define and understand black phenomena, black behavior. The most serious thing, to use white definitions. He who defines rules. If you accept my definition of the world, I will rule you. And so you see, look here, we're in this science lab. No question about it. Look here. See, since I've been in school, they don't even add more stuff to that table. The table wasn't bad enough, hard enough as it is. Now they had something else they are talking about. Now, what they tell you, oh no, Dr. Wright, this is objective. This is objective. This is science. This is science. You know what science is? A group of white men and women getting in a room and say, this is the way the world is. If you disagree with us, we'll kill you or we'll flunk you. That's simple. That's simple. So this is no more objective than anything else in the world. This table up here is some science, and white people have gotten together and said, this is science. Here's a definition of this, here's a definition of that, here's that. And let me tell you about definitions. They do not have to correspond to any reality, as long as they are useful in understanding some phenomena. That's the whole thing about science. Science does not have to deal with reality. Does not have to deal with a reality. Astronomy cannot prove anything. No one's been out there and touched a star. No one can, but they can infer. And then once you accept that definition, then you have a science called astronomy. Brothers and sisters got astrology. What sign are you? I knew that was some reason we couldn't get along. They dropped that one on us. Astrology. What sign are you? And I had some students in the free school once to do do a research. I want you all to get on the L, which is the subway. And I want you all to get on the L. And I want you all to where the blacks ride, because, you know, unlike you all, most of you have not been to Chicago and got into a cultural shock. Because we got block after block, mile after mile, of nothing but black folks. We got more black folks in 2 housing projects than you all got in the entire Northwest. I mean, so when I talk about black folks, I'm talking about black folks, you know. And we don't have that. Who are we? Why are we here, you know? So, I had them to get on the subway where all the blacks ride and pick up the newspapers and bring them back to class the exact way they picked them up on the air. The exact way they picked them up, bring them back to class. We're doing this research. Sure enough, every paper that they picked up on that subway, and I mean they picked them up, the papers then were about 10, 15 cents. Every paper they picked up was either turned to Ann Landers or turned to the astrology page. Astrology page. So right every day, if you notice, watch this. Whenever we get papers, that's how serious people, that's how their Mentacide is programmed up. And Mentacide, as I told you, is defined, as the sister told you, is defined as the deliberate and systematic destruction of a group's mind, with the ultimate purpose being the extermination of that group. He who controls minds controls the hands. He who controls the brain controls behavior. Very simple. Nothing complex about that. So you have blacks, if you look on the paper, they'll turn straight past the front page, stop at Ann Landers, and then go to the astrology page, and then put the paper down. Put the paper down. And even men of you, I'm not serious here, carry on serious discussion about astrology. Now let's just deal with that Mentacide process. How can you deal with astrology when they admit that Julius Caesar decided to put a month in? You know, here they screwed it up so much that we got February, 28 days. And by the way, that's our month. They gave us the shortest month in the year. And I'm making a suggestion here tonight, and I hope you carry it on. Let us start having in January 1st, because I'm getting tired of traveling for 30 days every year. Let us start in January 1st, I'm very serious, having Black History Year and White History Month, White History Week. Seriously. Let's stop Black History Month. Let's stop it all together. It's time to stop the nonsense of this. Why should we study Black history 1 month out of a year and we black folks? That's Mentacide. You don't hear Italian month, History Month. You don't hear Irish History Month, Jewish History Month. Number one, they ain't got no history. But anyway, you don't hear it. Yes, they do. Let me stop you. Yes, they do have history. Yes, they do.